Okay, hi everyone and welcome to another of my video tutorials. In this video I'm going to give you a couple of tips on how you can speed up your photography website in WordPress. Now if, like me, you have a WordPress website, then this video is perfect for you. Now there are a number of things that can slow down a website. Many of them are technical in the background, and while we can't go into the technical part and fix that, there are some things that we can do to fix that, and that's one thing I'm going to show you today. But the biggest thing that we can fix on a website is the one thing that we do best: the photos. On our computers when we're printing, obviously we have straight out of camera. If you're like me, you've got a Canon R5, you've got a 48 megapixel photo, even saved in a JPEG you're looking at 25-30 meg for a photo. Have a 30 meg photo on your website, it will take forever to download. We don't want that. What we need to do is optimize our photos for web viewing. And that's often where some people go wrong. So I'm going to show you now what you need to do to optimize your photos for web viewing. So the first thing we need to do is optimize the photos before we upload them to our website and put them up for display. Now, as I said, if we look at this photo, this is the original, and if we let's go to that photo, there it is. Now if we look at the properties of this photo, we have a 24 meg file, JPEG, and it is, you can go to the details, 8192 by 5464 pixels. Okay, now this is something where people often get confused. They talk about the DPI and they talk about resolution, but when it comes to the internet, what's important is pixel dimension, and more importantly in this case, pixel width. So it's no good having an image that is 8000 pixels wide, because that would never be displayed on the internet, because on your computer screen, your computer screens have a maximum pixel width. Now most, this one for example, the one that I'm showing you on now, has a pixel width of 1620 pixels wide. So anything over that just gets resized. When the image is displayed on the screen or on the internet, for example, it's going to be rendered at a different pixel width. Many screens today are high definition, and a high definition screen has a maximum pixel width of 1920 pixels. The 4K have a pixel width of about 3020 or something or other. So a lot depends on the pixel width of your computer screen. So your computer screens have what we call a native resolution, and your image is going to be displayed at the native resolution, which means that you don't need to upload an 8000 pixel wide image, because it will be too big and it'll only be resized, which is extra work, and also the file size is going to be unnecessarily large. So what you need to do is resize your image to the correct pixel width. Now if, in this case, if we go back here, if you want an image to be full screen like this, then you want to save it at maybe around 2000 pixels wide or 3000 pixels for 4K. But I think most people today are looking on screens at a maximum of around 1920, like the HD screens. Most people on their laptops have got high definition screens and they haven't got 4K, and even if they've got 4K, they wouldn't necessarily be looking at their internet browser at that resolution, because everything would be pin tiny, everything would be so small, and in most cases they've got their browsers set at a zoom level to look at it much larger. So I find, and what I do personally, is I cite any images that I want to go full screen, or full width, I size them at 2000 pixels wide. And then images that I want to be inside like this, they're going to be something like this. I'm going to size it around maybe 800 or 1000 or so. And then images that go on the galleries, for example, if they're going to come up in the gallery format, I don't want them to go full screen as such, but I want them to blow up fairly quick. And like this one, for example, I may size that at around 1200 pixels. Now, the reason for doing this is to optimize that file size. Okay, so let's go back to Photoshop. Now you can do this in Photoshop, you can do it in Lightroom or any other editing suite that you have perhaps, but the key is to set the pixel dimensions. So in this image, if we go up to image and image size, here is my pixel width, and here I've got it set not to percent, inches or anything, to pixels. Now the resolution here doesn't matter. That's the thing. Some people say, what should it be, 300, 72, whatnot? It doesn't matter, because actually your monitor has a native resolution. Some are 72, some of the older ones, some of the more modern ones are maybe 120 pixels per inch, but it doesn't matter what you set this to, because it's going to be rendered at the native resolution of your monitor. So even if you put it at 300, it's going to be redisplayed at 120 if your monitor is 120. So that's why I say this is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. What matters is this, the pixel dimensions. Now make sure you've got constraint proportions set, because what we want to do here, for example, is set the width. So if I change that to 2000, and I usually choose the bicubic sharper for reduction, so when you're reducing it, it will sharpen the image a bit accordingly. And make sure you've got this set. Make sure you've got resample ticked. If you don't, it will mess everything up. So make sure you've got resample ticked and click OK. Now again, if we go back and look at the image size, that is now 2000 pixels wide, a much smaller image. And the next step is to ensure, just in case you haven't, that your profile color space is set to sRGB, not Adobe RGB, because it doesn't display well on the internet. Colors tend to look a bit faded, so I find that you should set your color space for uploading to the web to sRGB. So if it's not done, you can do it this way. And here is the mega important part. When we save it, where first of all you want to save as, don't overwrite your original file, and then give it another file name like low, or put it into a different folder, whatever you're going to do, but make sure you don't overwrite your original. And then save it at a JPEG 7. JPEG quality 7 I find is the lowest I can go, which will give me a small file size and also maintain the quality of the image for viewing on the internet. Remember, we're not printing this. It doesn't have to have super detail, super high detail or resolution. We're not printing it. It's going to be viewed on the screen only, nowhere else. So it doesn't need all of that stuff in the background. It can be compressed down to JPEG 7, and you'll find that on the big screen on the computer it will still look really, really good. This case, this has given me a file size of 396 kilobytes. Not even a meg, not even half a meg. So this is fantastic. Have a few of these on your page and it's not going to increase your page size massively. So this, I find, is the optimum setting to save your images at. So let's save that one now. And now I have that one. Let's undo that. Now if I'm not going to make this image full screen, I want to make it perhaps a gallery image that can expand quite large but not full screen. Again, I can do the same thing. Let's go to image, image size, and in this case make the width 1200, smaller, and again Save that. Let's call it low. I call it maybe 1200 pics. Again, JPEG 7. Now it's 218K. It's even smaller. Same thing again. If I know it's only going to be a small thumbnail image and I'm not going to want to enlarge it or anything like that, same thing again, I can bring this down to as low as 800 pixels wide. Save as. In this case we'll call it 800. And now again I've got a 129 kilobyte file, and so on. So you can go even smaller than that. If you're going to have really tiny thumbnails that you're not going to want to enlarge anymore, then you can go even smaller. So that is how you save and optimize your images and then upload them to your WordPress site and put them in your page accordingly. So let's say you don't have Adobe Photoshop or any other means of optimizing your images this way, or you don't want to, or you have already uploaded your images to WordPress and have them all laid out in your website already, and they're already too big, and of course if you redo them you'll have to re-upload and replace everyone across your site, which is very time consuming. So there is a second option that you can use, and that is to use a plugin within WordPress to compress your images. Now there are several free ones and there are several that give you a limited amount of free compressions before you have to start paying. One of them is Imagify. Now if you want to use Imagify, there's a link down in the description of this video for you to go to their website and sign up. For full disclosure, I am an affiliate of Imagify, so if you do take out a paid account I will get a small commission for this, but the price is still the same for yourselves. But you can sign up for starters for free, and for that you get 20 megabytes per month. And now that's ongoing. If you only have to do a little bit each month, then you can probably get away with a free account. Basically once you reach that limit you won't be able to do any more until the next month, or you'll have to upgrade to one of these paid packages. So for $4.99 a month you can get 500 megabytes per month, or $9.99 unlimited. So this is one option. Another option is to come to the plugins section of your website and come to add plugins and search here for an image compress plugin, and there are many more options here too. Again, a lot of them are similar to Imagify, that you'll get a certain amount for free and then you might have to start paying. So there are several here. This tiny PNG is not too bad. Another one down here, Short Pixel, is very good, but again I think you have to pay after a certain amount. And there's one called Smush, which is very good. Again, a limited amount before you have to start paying. But one free one I recommend is WP Optimise. Now this is a caching plugin as well, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But for now, let's basically once you've found it, you just install the plugin like this, and then we activate it, and that's done. So we can go down here in our menu, we've got it here, and you'll also find it down here, so you can go to the settings here or come down here and go straight to the images section. So here you can choose how you set it up. Now you can turn this on to automatically compress newly added images. I personally wouldn't do that because I would optimize my images, and hopefully now you will do that on new images the way I've shown you. But if you can't and you want to have every image that you upload automatically compressed, then you can turn this on. But again, it's automatic, you don't have any control. I think it's much better to do it manually. So the other thing you can do with this, and this is a really useful feature I like about WP Optimise, is that you can show a compression box on each of your images dashboard media page, so you can actually optimize it from there. And what you do is you'll get this little box. So you've got options to prioritize maximum compression or prioritize retention of detail, and I think personally that's the best one, because the most important thing is, although we want to compress our images and make the file sizes nice and small, we don't want to lose detail as a result. Or you've got a custom option, in which case you can toggle between maximum compression and best image quality. The other option is this WebP conversion. Now, WebP is a new file format developed by Google, I believe, and it's supposedly gives you much better compression rates and smaller file sizes than a JPEG. Now, I've done this a few times, and I will say that it does give you a smaller file size. In some cases it's only a little bit, some cases it's a fair bit. It depends very much on the image. But the one problem with this I found is that it's not compatible with something called Open Graph. An Open Graph is something that's used when you share your images or your pages to social media like Facebook. And what happened was, when I started to build a site with one of these, and when I tried to share it initially as a test to Facebook, the image wouldn't show. And then when I did some research, I discovered that the system that it uses to share doesn't support this WebP. I don't know if that's changed since, but anyway, since then I went back to using JPEG, and I still think that although it does give you a slightly smaller file size, the way that I've just shown you with the JPEG saved at 7 and setting the pixel width right, gives you a small enough image, and I personally don't believe that you need it. But if you want to use it, if you want to try it out, you can select this, or individually with each image you can convert it to WebP and try it out if you want. So this is the option in here, you can see. Now there's a premium version, of course there is, but as I say, there doesn't seem to be any limit on what you can do. I've used this myself in the past on another website, and it didn't tell me that I was running out of images each month. But mind you, I didn't do a lot, so you'd have to read a bit more about the plugin. But as far as I can see, there's no limit. Now in here, it will give you a list of uncompressed images, so you could select them all and compress the lot all in one go. If one you know is optimized already or compressed, then you can mark it as already compressed, or you can select compress this image. Now I will also show you how you can do this image by image. So here, for example, in my slideshow, I can go to edit my slideshow, add new images or get rid of images or whatever. And so what you can do is, on each image, when you select it, whether you go into the media gallery, so I can add to gallery and go to my media gallery here, or from within the slideshow itself. So if I select an image in my media gallery like this, you can see there, but if I scroll to the bottom, now I've got this really handy box. Now I really like this feature in WP Optimise. Now I've got this really handy box where I can look on an image by image basis and decide, so I can see the file size here, 505k, and if I want to try to compress that any more, then I can play around with that here. So again, I can mark as already compressed. So I can do everything here that on an image by image basis, and I really like that feature of WP Optimise. And if you want to try out Imagify, again, you can install the plugin. Once you've gone there and to the website, you can sign up and download the plugin and install it, just like we did with WP Optimise, and come here to configure it. Similar settings, you can auto optimize on upload. Again, I uncheck it because I don't like it. This is very important. Make sure that you've got this ticked. Back up your original images, because each image, when you optimize it, you need to check it for quality. In some cases, some images may not compress well, and in which case you want to be able to undo it. So if you don't back up your original images, you'll lose it. So make sure you've got this checked, and make sure you've got lossless compression checked. Okay, use this to make sure that you get the optimal quality, because again, quality is more important than the smallest file size. You can compress the hell out of your images, make your file size really tiny and speed up your website, but you'll be showing rubbish images as a result. So remember, quality over file size is much more important. You need to find that balance between the two, the smallest file size with the optimum quality. Again, you've got the option to create the WebP images. You can resize larger images if they're too big, make them to a smaller pixel width, for example. And you've got the option down here, which is quite good, to optimize all of the little thumbnail images that WordPress creates. By default, when you upload an image to WordPress, it creates all these different thumbnail smaller sizes to show across your site. You know, this is one way that WordPress optimizes images and optimizes your website. So you can also control that with Imagify, and a whole bunch of other options down here, as I say. So that's Imagify. So as I say, try out WP Optimize, try out Imagify, try out Smash, or any of the others maybe, and see which one you find suits you best. So that's how we can optimize our photos to ensure that our pages are as small as possible and our photo file sizes are as small as possible. So as you see, they don't need to be super high resolution for the internet. But at the same time, even though we do that, at the end of the day, we're photographers. We've got photo galleries. We've got in each of our photo galleries, we've got lots and lots of photos we want to put up on display. We've got lots of photos that, in my case and most people's cases, they want those pictures to look big. You want them to go full screen. So even though we've done that, we've still got a lot of these photos on there, and the page sizes are going to be inflated. Nothing we can do about it. Well, as I said, you can have a smaller gallery, you can have just thumbnail pictures, but again, it then makes for an absolute rubbish user experience. You want your photos to wow. You want people to, in my case, I want people to buy my photos, and they're not going to spend several £100s on an image if they just see a thumbnail version. He's going to want to click it, he's going to want to enlarge it, he's going to want to look closely to see how good that image, to see if it's a quality image before they spend that kind of money. So it's absolutely paramount that I have pages like this. So what's the next thing we can do to do that, to improve page speed time, page load times, to improve the overall speed of your website? And that is to install a caching plugin. Now, of course, as I said, speed is important for your website visitors, but it's also important for ranking on Google and other search engines. Now, as I said, Google does take page speed into account when ranking your website. It's not the only thing, it is not the number one thing, and having a slow website doesn't mean that you're just going to fall down the rankings in Google, because there are many other factors involved. But speed is one ranking factor, especially on mobiles, and of course it's important for your visitors. So one way to check the page speed of your website is to go to Google's own little tool, Page Speed Insights. Now this is a very hard tool to please. I will say this. So with the images optimized, not all of my images are optimized on that site. I have some very older images that are quite large, but none of them are actually being used on my page now. I've actually removed most of them, although they're still on my server. They're not being used on any of my pages. But still, PageSpeed Insights will most likely detect them and give me a thumbs down for it. But anyway, with all of that set, okay, now I mentioned a cache-in plugin. I've got no cache-in plugin turned on at the moment. Everything's turned off. So let's check the speed of my website with the cache-in plugin turned off. So we just simply put the website in, and click Analyze and let the PageSpeed Insights website do its work. And here are my results. So you can see on the mobile it's very poor. I got a performance of 38. Best practices in SEO are good, accessibility is good, but overall performance is very low. Now down here you'll get all this technical information. Now, as I say, properly sized images. Okay. Now the one problem with this is it does go through your whole site, and it will look at things that maybe are not even being used. So this is kind of a general benchmark view, but you'll see that there are lots of technical things like enormous payloads, CSS, all this kind of stuff, all this technical stuff, which is like, oh my god, what do I do about that? Desktop 86, a bit better, yeah, much better actually, usually the case on the desktop, but this is very poor. And as I say, most people are using smartphones now to view websites, so it's very, very important to get your mobile score up, and Google also likes you to have a good fast mobile version of your website. So what can we do to improve this? Now there are several caching plugins. WP Optimise is one of them. It's free and it doesn't do a bad job, but the best one I found, and the one that I've put on my sites now, is called WP Rocket. Now WP Rocket is not free. It is a paid plugin, but it is well worth the money in my view. It has made an enormous difference to the speed of the websites that I've put it on, and especially the mobile speed. Now for one website it's simply $59 per year. As I say, well worth it. Or if you've got more than one website, $119 for 3, or $299 a year for unlimited number of websites. So again, there's a link in the description. I am an affiliate. As I said, I signed up to their affiliate program once I started using their plugin because it really is fantastic. So go down to the description and click the affiliate link if you want to sign up and install this on your WordPress site after I show you what it can do. So we've seen the results of the PageSpeed Insights with no caching plugin turned on at all. Now let's activate it. Now I've already set this up, but I'll show you roughly how I've done it. Once that's activated, you can go in the plugin list and click settings to go and set it up, or you'll see that it's in the top bar here, and the same thing, you can hover over and open up the settings to configure the plugin. Now I won't go into too much detail about configuration of the plugin. I've already configured mine. If you go to the bottom here, you've got some excellent tutorial videos provided by the makers of this plugin, which will guide you through how best to set this up. Every website is going to be different, so you can't just it's not just a case of switching everything on, because some things may be needed for yours or not. Some things may work, some things may cause problems on your site, so it's best to go through and do each bit at a time. Watch all these videos and learn how to do it yourself. Before you do anything, the first thing I would do is back up your website. Now whatever, you may have a backup policy already, but I use a plugin called All-in-One WP Migration, and this way before I do anything I will run a backup of my site just in case anything goes wrong. Most of the things you do here are reversible, except for the database optimization. So let's go through first of all very quickly then. As soon as you install the plugin, if you downloaded the plugin after you signed up and you paid, you would have been directed to a place or a login area on their website where you can download the plugin. When you download that plugin, upload that to here, it automatically connects your license to this website, so you don't have to enter any codes or anything. That's really handy. So that's done. I would make sure that the analytics are turned off. Although it's anonymous, it's still sharing information. It's more data transfer from your site, so I wouldn't bother. The cache is automatically enabled, so you don't have to worry about that. Caching for mobile devices is enabled. You don't need to do this unless you have a non-responsive theme. You don't need to enable caching for logged in users unless you have visitors or other users. Your website is an open site, maybe for customers or guests or something or other. Otherwise, if it's just for yourself, you don't have to worry about that. The cache lifespan you can set here is set by default to 10, which I think is enough, but if you want to do more, you can. Again, all of these you can look at in the tutorials. The file optimization. Now this is something that's very important, but can be a little tricky, so you should do one thing at a time. So, and basically an overview, your site has a lot of code. One of these codes is called CSS. Without going into too much detail about it, basically these options help you to optimize this code. That means that there's a lot of white space or comments that can be removed. It can be minified. It can do all sorts of things that they can do. Here you can remove unused CSS, so you may have some code in there that is actually not really used, it's not necessary, it's just bulking out your page. So you can get rid of that. That's one way of optimizing it. Same with the JavaScript. You've got an option to minify JavaScript. You've got options down here to load it deferred or even delay it. Okay, now as I say, you should tick one of these at a time, and when you do tick it, go check your website to make sure it hasn't caused any problems. And one way to do that, if you're logged in each time, is to go up here, visit site, right click and open it in a private window. If you open it in a private window, you're going to be viewing the cached version. So if there are any problems when you've ticked something, if you see it's caused a problem on your site anywhere, then you can simply go back and untick it. Okay, so this option here, you'll see that it says here reducing HTTP requests not recommended if your site uses HTTP2. More info here if you want to read it, but in a nutshell, you can go, there's a website you can go to. I'll show you it here. I'll put a link in the description to this website. You can go to this website, enter your URL here and check to see if it's running HTTP2. Mine is, so in this case then I'm not going to tick this option. Same down here for the JavaScript. Okay, media, as we've just talked about. You've got options here to enable lazy loading. Now WordPress, Elementor also have lazy loading too, so you can check it to see if it works, if it makes a difference, but it can cause problems and a conflict. Mine's unchecked because it actually did. It caused me problems, so I've unchecked it. So again, check it all for it by yourself. Same with these image dimensions. If you check this, you can add missing image dimensions, but again it caused me problems, so mine's unchecked. Preloading, this is all checked. Okay, database. Now this is one thing you definitely want to make sure. A lot of these file optimization things can be undone, but this one cannot be. So make sure you've got a backup. But basically you've got lots of revisions, so it can clean up your database with unused stuff that you don't need anymore, spam comments, transients, like it's got here, transients for example. This is something you can do regularly. You can either schedule it to do it daily, weekly or monthly, or untick this and just come in and do it manually whenever you want. CDN. A CDN is really useful. CDN stands for Content Delivery Network. Basically what it is if you have one of these, if you don't have one of these, your website is stored on one server, say in the UK. And if somebody from America wants to look at your website, they have to go to the server in the UK and transfer all those files from the UK to their computer in the US. A content delivery network puts your website on servers in various locations around the world, and in which case then there may be a server in the US, so that person in the US, instead of going to the UK, can access your website files from the server in the US, which will mean it's closer and it's faster. So this speeds up your website, also reduces the load on your hosting service as it is. So this is really, really useful. There are many places you can get this. Your website hosting may provide this already, so check that first. But Another option is that with WP Rocket they have their own CDN service for $7.99 a month, so check that out as well. The heartbeat, we won't go into too much details about it, but here you can control the heartbeat. Don't disable it, but you can reduce the activity. This helps to reduce the load on your server and also speed up your website. And other add-ons and tools and stuff here. So once all that's done, at any time you can come up here, you can click clear and preload the cache, and this is worth doing if you've made any changes to any of your pages anywhere on the website. It's worth, once you've finished, going in and clearing and preloading the cache. And you can also anytime clear the used CSS. So again, if we click that, and here you can see it's doing a little countdown, so wait for the countdown to finish while it's removing the unused CSS from your website. And there you go, that's all done. The used CSS cache is cleared and the unused CSS is removed. I have cleared and preloaded the cache, and now we're ready to go. So now let's go back and run my speed test again. And there you have it. Wow, what a massive difference. Not quite 100%, but to get that on the mobile is pretty difficult. And as I say, there's a whole bunch of other stuff down here that you need to look at. And results can vary depending also on your server. Now, you know, depending on the type of server you have, how fast your servers are, that can make a difference. And also the time of day, if lots of people are looking at your site, or there's other things. So it's worth running several tests, coming in periodically and running this test. But already you can see a massive improvement. Desktop is 98, almost 100%, fantastic. And the mobile is up to 75%. So a massive, massive improvement that WP Rocket has made to my website alone. Okay, so I hope you found this useful, and if you did, please give this video a like, and go down into the description and please go check out WP Rocket, Imagify, and any other links I've put down there, and hopefully this will also help you speed up your own WordPress photography website. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.